All right, it is September, I think 18th. No, October 18th, 2019. I'm with Norm Shealy, and you're still near Springfield, right? It's Fairhope?
Right. Well, I'm actually close to Pleasant, but the mailing address is Fair Grove.
Oh, okay.
But my clinic is in Springfield.
I'm getting some bad audio, and you're frozen, so I'm not sure if this may go to the recording okay, but let's see if we get the audio at least. You've got a nice grin on your face in the frozen state here, but I may have lost you like the last time. Can you hear me?
I hear you. Can you hear me?
I hear you. Yes, but there's some breakup. It sounds like it may be your internet, but let's give it a shot here. So we go back, what, 40 some years?
Yeah, you were just finishing your MPH, I think, when I met you.
Yeah, I was, no, I think it was after that. I had done that before I came to California and started my wellness center. That was another 4 years after that.
Okay.
And I most remember riding in the car with my dad in Dayton. We picked you up at the airport and went to Wright State for a talk. But then you started the American Holistic Medical Association, and that was a year or so later. And you go back way further than I do in terms of your interest in pain, and being one of the pioneers in holism at that point. So how did, you were a traditional neurosurgeon, then you invented the TENS unit, and how did you make this switch from the mainstream to the world you're in and have created now?
I invented spinal cord stimulation and the TENS at the same time. And all of a sudden, I was getting sent 400 people. I invented. And 94% of those people were so damaged from 5 to 7 unsuccessful back operation, plus Valium, plus Percodan, I wouldn't stick a needle on them, let alone a spinal cord stimulator. So in 1971, I decided somebody's got to find out how to treat all these failures. And I dropped out of conventional surgery and opened the first pain clinic in October 1970. And after that, I just looked at everything possible as a safe alternative to drugs or surgery.
And what a journey it's been.
Well, it continued for me. My latest invention is actually, in my opinion, the most practical and most useful I've ever done. We have created a pulsed electromagnetic frequency device which puts the brain into gamma. To my knowledge, no other PEMF puts the brain in gamma. And I have completed a study now of 20 months in 10 opioid addicts who've been totally free of cravings now almost 20 months. They've never been free of cravings since they became addicted until I got the gamma PEMF on them.
Wow.
Completely free of cravings. But this same device is excellent for pain, circulation, hypertension, lung disease, and even Parkinsonism. Last week, the wife of one of my patients came into the office and said, come out here, I want you to show my husband. A month earlier, he came in a wheelchair and took 2 people to get him on the table. He couldn't even stand with 2 people holding him. He walked 40 feet from the parking lot into my clinic after 1 month of using the cranial PEMF. The wife of one of my patients came in a wheelchair and took 2 clinics after 1 month of using the cranial PEMF. You hear me?
Yeah, it's all
with it.
garbled though. I'm hoping the recording is better than what I'm getting, but I'm concerned. I think your internet connection is too slow, and I'm going to try turning off the video and see if we can get an audio. If you can turn your camera off, and I'll turn mine off, that will open up more frequency, and they can look at black silhouettes.
Camera off.
Hear you. Yeah. So I heard you've had this amazing experience. The guy that walked 40 feet into your clinic, and how many?
Well, yeah, just 1 month earlier. 1 month he couldn't even alone. It took two people to get him to the exam table. Now he walked 40 feet into the clinic after using the clinic enough for 1 month.
Wow. Yeah, I'm still getting a fair amount of garble. Let's try it a little longer. Hope it clears up. Are you hearing me okay?
I hear you fine. I hear you break up at all.
Yeah, that tells me it's probably on your outbound uplink. Well, when did you first encounter the word holistic and adopt it to your work?
Well, I remember somewhat vaguely. I was at Virginia Beach at the Edgar Cayce Foundation, the ARE.
Right.
And someone just mentioned the word holistic. And I liked it. And I got Jan Smut's book, Holism and Evolution. And I was captured by the complexity and the intricacy with which he described all known science early in the last century. And I was hooked on the concept that holism is more important than anything else.
Yeah, that was the book in the 70s.
Well, yeah, that's when I read the book. It was written in back, I think, 1929.
Oh, right. It was much older, but it didn't get, well, it got a lot of publicity in the 70s. I was hearing about it everywhere. So that was the next step after you read the book. You were in lacrosse at that point?
That's right. I'd been in lacrosse since 1966. And so I just started talking, and suddenly in 1979, after meeting with a number of physicians who were interested, in May of 1979, we started the American Holistic Medical Association. The interesting is the establishment has hated the word from the day go. They would not allow advertisements for the opening meeting in any publication of the AMA. Mm-hmm. And immediately after the foundation of AHMA, they began to use other words like alternative and, anything except holism, alternative, complementary. And eventually, to me, the bastard word of all, integrative. And the reason I call it a bastard word is every hospital in the country says they have integrative medicine, and they may offer nothing but hot stone massage or toe massage, and that is not comprehensive. Now, there is an Academy of Comprehensive Integrative Medicine, and that I can accept. But several years ago, the wimps, and I really mean that, they are beyond wimps, but I can't say it online, decided the establishment was never going to accept the word holistic, so they changed the word to the Academy of Integrative Health and Medicine. Even though I had lifelong membership, I refused to transfer my membership into the new organization because I think it's a wimpy thing.
Yeah. Well, back to the AHMA meeting, and that was significant for me because I met Regina, my co-author, at that meeting. Actually, she wasn't at the meeting. There was a parallel meeting, but it was a groundbreaking experience for me. How has that evolved, the organization?
Well, they still exist as the Academy of Integrative Health and Medicine. In fact, their annual meeting's going on, I think, this or next week. But I've never been to one of their meetings since they changed the name. And I don't go to meetings unless I'm speaking. And they haven't invited me to speak. So I'm frankly, I can tell them in the world, I don't give a damn. I still believe in holism.
Holism.
And I will never ever accept the word integrative by itself.
Yeah. Well, at that stage, wellness was still an unknown word. We had to spell it on the phone, and Dan Rather opened his piece in 1979 saying, wellness, there's a word you don't hear every day. And our paths overlapped, though what I was doing and how I defined wellness excluded treatment. It was parallel with treatment. And so at the same time I was developing that based on Halbert Dunn's work, the holistic movement, both holistic health and holistic medicine, which were kind of parallel tracks as well, the professionals and the lay people. But now the word wellness is everywhere. And what it means is pretty shallow compared to what Halbert Dunn meant and the path I tried to follow. But I noticed you're using the word wellness now in your clinic and on your website. So when did you make the switch?
Well, I think I began actually changing to the Shealy Wellness Institute about 1997 or 8.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, interesting evolution of words.
Oh, yes.
Concepts. But the reason I included you with this collection was mostly people that were more directly involved in what we were calling wellness back then. But because our paths overlapped, and you're such an important figure in the development of it that many people probably won't know or recognize. And I'm going after the pioneers for this oral history collection. So what led to your eventual move to Missouri? And I remember coming to a meeting there once. You had a conference in Springfield.
Yes, I think that was roughly 1984.
Yeah.
The reason I left Springfield, La Crosse, Wisconsin, is real estate taxes. Between 1975 and 1981, real estate taxes increased 800%.
Wow.
I studied the country, and it turned out that Missouri was 49th lowest total taxes per capita in the United States. So we moved here in March of 1982, and my real estate taxes in Wisconsin were $10,000. In equivalent property here in Missouri, they were $600. And I don't like government in general. I consider all people who go for political office to be inherent crooks. And my only policy is to try to vote out people as many times as possible rather than vote in someone. But I'm very happy that we moved here because, in 37 years, real estate taxes have only doubled here in Missouri. And that's well below the cost of living increase.
Yeah.
I like as little government as possible.
Mm-hmm. So you settled in well there. I've only been there. My dad actually was born in Missouri and lived there for a while, so I have some roots. I guess it's the show me state. You've adapted well, and what is you've mentioned the gamma connection. What are your current hottest interests, and where do you think things are going?
Well, I honestly would like somehow to get the gamma involved in opioid addiction therapy because, there are national studies that show that only the long-term success of current addiction centers is an average of 17%.
Oh boy.
And that is abominable. And that's even worse than the average drug.
Yeah.
And yet, the pharmacomafia is so entrenched that nobody's really interested. In fact, I wrote to the director of corrections of the state of Missouri and offered, them to look at my device. And they wrote back, they're only interested in using drugs to get people off drugs.
Oh, boy.
Which doesn't work. But hey, halitosis is better than no breath at all.
Well, the struggles continue at being an early, not even early adopter. What's the originator of new ideas, and so often it's we don't get to see the end results by the time they're adopted by the culture. But
well, that's the history of medicine in general. When Harvey introduced circulation of the blood back in the 1500s, the medical profession totally ignored him and ridiculed him. Ignaz Philipp Semmelweis, who was the one who discovered the problem of peripheral fever, couldn't get physicians to wash their hands before they did deliveries. And in general, in every profession, not just in medicine, in government, in education, in business, new ideas are rejected because they interfere with the establishment.
Yeah. Well, that's something we both had some experience with. I've just recently learned that there's an actual name called the Semmelweis effect, which describes just that.
Right.
I'm trying to remember the author's name. Who described, it says science progresses one funeral at a time. Not remembering his name right now, but yeah, it's it's slow going. Well, you're now in early 80s.
The other thing I've been interested in now for almost 10, maybe 12 or 13 years is in enhancing healthy longevity. I discovered that there are ways of regrowing your telomeres. Telomeres shrink if you have good health habits. They shrink an average of 1% a year. And I have two different techniques which will regenerate or regrow the telomeres 3.5% a year, healthily.
Wow.
And I don't know anybody who can compete with that. One of them is actually to expose people to human DNA frequency. Human DNA vibrates or resonates at 52 to 78 billion cycles a second at a billionth of a watt. And by exposing people to that frequency, you actually goes through the skin and regenerates or rejuvenates the DNA telomeres.
What do you use to generate a frequency that high?
Tesla coil. Very easy.
Uh-huh.
You remember the old violet ray? You ever hear of that one?
No.
Well, remember, I'm an electrical junkie. I mean, I've played with electricity for over 50 years.
Yeah, me
There
too.
was something until the 1970s called the violet ray, which it was a sort of a flashlight handle type thing with a glass tube on the end, and you could touch the skin with it. And actually, if you touch the skin with it, it will activate an acupuncture point better than a needle. And I've been working with that since 1995. But I also found two circuits in the body that are new in a sense. One is called the Ring of Fire. Well, there are three different ones that are important for rejuvenation. The Ring of Fire, the Ring of Earth, and the Ring of Crystal. Each of these has different points which have specific biochemical effects. The Ring of Fire regenerates DHEA. The Ring of Earth enhances calcitonin, and the Ring of Crystal reduces free radicals a whole 80%. And if you do all three of those with an essential oil rubbed onto the acupuncture points, which takes only a minute and a half a day to do all of it, that regenerates the telomeres another 3.5% per year. But interestingly, it doesn't add anything to the electrical stimulation. It's either or.
Uh-huh. And the electrical stimulation is done how?
Well, I made a mattress in the center of which is pure copper screen, just the kind you put in your window. And on that is 1 pound of crushed sapphire crystal, because sapphire is much stronger than quartz in amplifying electromagnetic energy. A wire comes out of that, you hook it to the Tesla coil, and then the entire mattress produces this 52 to 78 billion cycles a second at a billionth of a watt per centimeter square. So an hour a day on that, or an hour a night on that, is what regenerates your telomeres. You can either put it on a 1 hour timer when you're in bed, or the way I do it now most of the time is I do it in the morning for 40 minutes while I'm doing my morning exercise routine. And then in the afternoon, when I'm letting go, I do it for another 30 minutes. And it works either way.
Uh-huh. But you get the same results with the essential oils in a minute and a half. That
exactly
sounds like a no-brainer in terms of time and cost, but...
Oh, yes, that is true. And, interestingly, I found a number of other things with the essential oils. The Ring of Fire not only helps with regenerating telomeres, but it significantly raises DHEA levels, 60%.
Mm.
And it reduces depression significantly in 70% of people. One of the other circuits that doesn't have anything to do with rejuvenation of telomeres, but the Ring of Air helps depression and anxiety in 80% of people, and it raises oxytocin.
Wow.
The Ring of Water normalizes aldosterone. As you know, aldosterone can go either up or down, and either way, stimulating the Ring of Water brings the aldosterone back to level. Its greatest benefit is in treating congestion and edema. And the Ring of Earth, which is part of the rejuvenation project, it significantly increases calcitonin and can help with reversing or preventing osteoporosis.
Wow. And are you a living example of this? What's your age now?
Well, I'll be 87 in December.
Oh, really? I thought you were early 80s at the most.
No, I'll be 87 December 4th, but I still feel 26 energetically. And my morning routine is 90 minutes of exercise, 30 minutes of which I'm in a sweat.
Wow.
And that's 7 days a week.
Wow. I find exercise has always been my biggest barrier, and I finally found the high intensity interval training that I can do in 12 minutes was doable.
Yep.
Done that for 3 4 years.
I've explored that, and it's very good. I just like to do a lot more.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. So, how much have your telomeres increased? Have you measured that?
Yeah, I'll be checking. Interestingly, at one point they were 30% younger than I. But unfortunately, when I was 18 in college, I had shingles. And the chief of dermatology at Duke University treated my lumbar spine for 2 whole weeks with X-ray therapy. Never heard of it. And that was before I went to medical school. I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
And eventually that destroyed my lumbar spine. My lumbar spine, 2.5 years ago, looked about 1,000 years old, and the lumbar stenosis was 90% occlusion. If I had not had lumbar surgery from L1 through 5, I'd be totally paralyzed by now. So I had the surgery. It got rid of the stenosis, but I had a little complication of the surgery, and my left foot became totally paralyzed. It's about, 50% weak, but 100% numb. And so I can't do quite as much as I used to, but at least it doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
And I lost a lot of what I'd gained, but I'm back up to about 7 years younger than I am.
Great. And have you been using how long have you been using the high frequency?
Oh, I've been using it or the essential oil since 2006.
Uh-huh. So you had 13 years of
Yeah.
exposure. Well, I'm
And I
impressed.
lost with the stress of that major surgery. I lost a lot of what I'd gained, but I'm on the track to gain again.
Yeah, great. Well, here where I live, there's a number of us have been reading the new Lifespan book of David Sinclair's. Are you familiar with that? What do you think of it, if so?
I know of it, but not enough to really evaluate it.
Mm-hmm. Apparently, they've done an amazing media blitz, and I've just started to dip into it myself. So um, the other thing, I was just out at Len Saputo's the other day, and my partner is doing light therapy with him, and he mentioned that you have done some of that too. Is that still in your armamentarium?
Oh yeah.
How do you use it, and what have you
Well,
seen?
basically, I use one of the pads with phototherapy activation for pain and mood.
A pad, you say? I don't know that.
Well, yeah, it actually it has all these lights in the pad,
Oh.
and they don't put out that much heat, but they put out photostimulation.
Mm-hmm.
And you can actually put it directly on an area of the body, and it'll have local pain relief. Or you can expose the whole the eyes to it, and it's the same as good photostimulation.
Hmm.
And I've worked with photostimulation since the early 70s, using frequencies to put into different brain states.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I produced something I call the Shealy Relax Mate, and
I
it'll
remember.
put it'll put 95% of people into deep relaxation within 5 minutes.
Wow. Is that still available?
Yep, it's been available. Wow, gosh, 30 years or more.
I remember Jack Schwartz had something like that in the
Well,
70s.
that actually, Jack is the person who gave me the idea. He had one in which the eyes alternated left, right, left, right. And I liked it, but I thought it'd be better if both eyes were the same, blinking at the same together. And
Uh-huh.
so I had an engineer develop one where both eyes get exactly the same frequency at the same time. And then you can go from 1 to 7 cycles per second, because those are the really deep to moderate relaxation frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
And it works extremely well.
Yeah, that's you've certainly explored technology in your quest for better health and reduction of pain. Have you personally had much pain anywhere in your life, or how did you get into the issue of pain? Because I think a lot of people teach what they need to learn, in my case anyway. So how did pain become your main theme in life?
Well, when I was in my residency, neurosurgeons were doing a cordotomy.
Wow.
And it was the crudest, I think, the most barbarian thing I've ever seen in my life. You get in the operating room, you do a laminectomy at 2 levels, wherever you want to do the cordotomy, and you broke off, at least it was sterile, a piece of an old one-edged razor blade, and lifted the spinal cord and stuck it in the front half and cut it. I mean, to me, I can't imagine cutting the spinal cord with a razor blade, but that's what was done. So when I finished my residency in 1963, I spent the next 3 years doing animal research on pain physiology. And that's when I came up with both TENS and spinal cord stimulation.
Mm. And that, where I don't know where you did your residency, and is that where you did the research?
Mass General.
Oh, okay.
Ha, y'all. But that was the standard in the country from the 1920s until really the mid-60s.
Really? So when were you at Mass General?
1958 to 1963.
And then you did, and that's also where you did your research, or was that after you finished your residency?
The research, no, I was on the faculty at Western Reserve Medical School in Cleveland.
Oh, okay.
And I did all my basic research there.
Uh-huh. Well, I went from Ohio to Boston about the time you did the reverse.
Right. And I loved, what I was doing, but honestly, I don't like bureaucracies. I found the bureaucracy of a medical school almost as bad as government.
Yeah, I had a brief experience teaching in Australia, and it just got worse and worse. I thought academia would be an open, exploring environment, and it ain't anymore.
Nope.
So you haven't personally had pain issues in your own life, although how was this lumbar deterioration before the surgery? Were you?
Well, interestingly, I didn't have any significant pain. I was, with my vigorous life activity, I began to notice my legs were getting a little weak in both sides. And I took an x-ray of my lumbar spine. And I mean, I've never seen a spine that looked as bad as mine. I mean, I thought it must be 1,000 years old. And then I got an MRI, and I literally had 90% occlusion. I mean, there was no room at all for the nerve, for the cauda equina.
Wow.
So I had to have the laminectomy, and I'm glad I did, but unfortunately something happened to the left L5 and S1 nerve roots. But at least it doesn't hurt.
You're still at it. That's amazing.
Well, and I can still do a treadmill because I can hold on. I can't run outside alone, but I can do fairly vigorous exercise.
Yeah, sounds like it.
And I get my pulse up to 139.
Mm-hmm. Well, any other memories back from the 70s when we were both fishing around in these evolving fields of holism and wellness?
Of course, in 1972, I learned about autogenic training and biofeedback. And that's when I went back to get a PhD in psychology, because I wanted to explore this whole concept of self-control, self-regulation. So I spent 3 years, 74 to 77, getting a PhD in psychology.
Where was that?
Saybrook, the Humanistic Institute.
Right. So that, were you physically there? They were in San Francisco, but were you there at that time?
Well, it was mostly an online program. I mean, we had several, week-long seminars, but the rest of it was done online. And that's when I developed what I call biogenics. I took autogenic training as the basic, and now I have 53 different mental retraining exercises.
Wow.
Covering everything from pain to depression, anxiety, spirituality, contact with your angels, everything.
The works. Yeah, biofeedback was just hitting its prime in the mid 70s. I was doing biofeedback, and George, what's his name in the city? I'm blocking names this morning. Who was the guy at UCSF that got all the attention? Barbara Brown wrote her book around then.
Yeah, and Elmer Green, who actually was the first person to really do clinical feedback, was my mentor in my PhD thesis.
Oh, yeah, good old Elmer. Well, he was a real pioneer. Too bad he's not around to interview.
Yeah, he passed away about 2.5 years ago.
That recently? I thought it was longer ago.
Yeah, no, he was, I think, 93 at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, biofeedback, that's certainly a commonality because I was using it for relaxation and people that were so stressed out, as it got them to see it in a way that they couldn't otherwise. Well, any other things to dredge up from the past?
Well, from the beginning of my work outside the box, so to speak, I've been very interested in nutrition. And I feel that because of the great toxicity in the world today, 65% of the rain has Roundup in it. And so one of my basic statements is that you can't really call anything organic anymore, because if 65% of the rain has Roundup in it, it can't be called organic.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a real toxin. And then, the other thing that bothers me as much and maybe even more than Roundup is fluoride.
Oh, yeah. I've been working against that one. We actually blocked it in Byron Bay 3 years ago.
Well, we need to block it everywhere. Yeah. If we do not get rid of fluoride within the next 20 years, there'll be no more children. The sperm count in men, when I finished medical school, was 150 million. Today, the average sperm count is 40 million. And when it gets to 20 million, men are infertile. So somewhere between 10 and 20 years from now, the average male will be infertile. And nobody seems to be interested in the fact that there aren't going to be any great-grandchildren.
Yeah. Wow. I hadn't seen the connection with of fluoride with sperm count. There's so many other things that it does, but
it decreases IQ in children as well.
Yeah, that's the biggest one.
And it decreases fertility in women, but that's so much harder to measure. Whereas in men, you can certainly measure it. Yeah. I mean, a decrease of 110 million.
Yeah. Well, since most of the world doesn't fluoridate, I guess it's going to be the U.S. shrinking in population.
Yeah, the U.S. is going to get very small.
Yeah. Wow. Between that and all the other stuff going on, it could get depressing, but here we are, still slogging away.
Well, I'll be slugging away till I pass.
I can tell you're a real go-getter, Norm.
Well, I'd rather be busy than bored.
Well, that's about all I can think of at this point. I'm delighted that we had this connection. It took us a while to get.
Well, I'm so glad you got in touch with me again. Every once in a while I remembered you, and I thought, what's ever happened to him?
Well, I'm in Australia half the year, so I avoid winter that way. But I've got another 4 weeks before I head back down under.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I've slowed down a lot, and I met my soulmate finally at age 68, and we've been having so much fun that it's truly been golden years for me. But I'm only 76, so got a ways to go.
Oh, you're what I call middle-aged.
Well, I feel like it, for sure.
Well, I wrote a book in 2006 called Life Beyond 100. And I predicted the possibility of living an average of 140 years. In other words, the average life should be 120 to 160 if we had good health habits and we rejuvenated our telomeres.
Yeah, yeah. Well, may you be in the top end of that numerator.
Well, I keep hoping I'll make it at least 120 to prove my point.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anything else? Any parting words?
No, I can't think so. Well, just one final word, maybe. I have a new book that's coming out next year called Who Killed Common Sense?
Oh, that's a good title.
I consider it common sense is the uncommon commodity.
Yeah. Well, I'll be ready to look for it, and let me know.
Well, I'll send you a copy when it's being edited by a professor of literature right now. I want his opinion. Put it out to the publisher, but I'll send you a copy when I get it back from him.
Great. Well, thanks again, Norm. Take care.
Well, thank you. Blessings, and have a great winter or whatever it is. It'll be summer down there.
Yeah.
In Australia.
And you too in Missouri. Thanks again.
Blessings. Have a good one.
Bye.